Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss the latest scandal, including cabinet ministers, most notably Rishi Sunak, spending £500,000 on image consultants, effectively wasting a fortune in taxpayer money on nothing of any benefit to the country in their roles as secretaries of state. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, Rishi Sunak, first of all, he's been spending a bit. I know, very wealthy man. On the Sunday Times rich list with hundreds of millions of pounds to his name, of course he's going to be spending a bit. But although he can lash out his own money on whatever he wants, as long as it's legal, even though much of that wealth was gained as a result of his role in the global crash of 2008, actually it could have been very different if we took the same line as Iceland. He may well have found himself with some prison time. But never mind that. It's a different matter on government business. In fact, Rishi Sunak is going to come in for some criticism from me for two different forms of spending in his role as Chancellor. Because the first sounds odd. He's been covering the cost of flights on some occasions for visits to the United States on government business. Now, in the interests of value for public money, you may ask, well, what's the harm in Sunak not claiming for the cost of travel? He's a wealthy man. If he wants to cover that and save the taxpayers some money, what's the harm? Well, it's all about accountability. We have a right to know what government ministers have been doing, because they spend our money. When Rishi Sunak visits America, when actually he should have been here working on the cost of living crisis, but when he goes to America to visit private healthcare leaders across the Atlantic, and then covered some of the costs himself, you need to ask what he was really doing. If he's talking to these people in his role as a senior member of the UK government, we want to know what was discussed. We don't want him hiding behind a smokescreen of aspects of his trip not being covered by the public purse. But let's say you insist, look, come on, Phil, he's just a very wealthy man who wants to keep the cost down for the taxpayer. Consider this next bit of spending then. So the Independent recently reported that our would-be altruistic Chancellor spent £500,000, this time of taxpayer money, on trying to repair his public image. Sunak's reputation has taken a bit of a tumble. What he seems to fail to understand is that his reputation was only ever boosted by the furlough scheme. That's it. At a time of government cock-up after cock-up, many of them deliberate, during the height of the pandemic, the Treasury became the only government department to come away with any credit. It was long predicted that as soon as Sunak dropped furlough, which was approved by him, but remember, not his policy, and went back to his own actual economic policies, his approval rating would drop like a stone. I'm guessing he thought his appeal was down to like natural charm and buying massive bags of tea. He's observed Boris Johnson working his charm on the public, and he thought, I can do that. I'll just smile a lot and hold up bags of tea and pretend I'm like normal. No, that's not what his appeal was. It was because he was a rare lifeline for people at a crucial time. It was that little occasion where the government adopted some socialism in a crisis. But it's all over now. His economic mismanagement has failed to cover for his Brexit misadventures. He's still failing to deal with the issue by taxing the unexpected profits of large corporations and using the money to ease the burden for ordinary people. But he wants to be Prime Minister. Right now, this isn't happening. He'll know that. He's about as popular as a bacon butty at a bar mitzvah. And that's just in the Conservative Party. He's basically blown his chances. But he's an arrogant man. If he'd abandoned his ambition, he would have resigned by now. He doesn't need a political career. He's a very wealthy man. And he's going to continue to make a lot of money. He doesn't need to be a politician. What's the point of continuing to take the flak for no future gain? So he obviously believes he can still work things back to his favour to become Prime Minister. So he commissioned focus groups, online polling analysts, that sort of thing, at a cost of nearly £1.5 million so far altogether. The accusation from Labour is that these polls, which were originally designed to test public opinion on COVID measures and so may have been justified, even though I'm not entirely convinced they used the results for the public interest, but nonetheless you could argue that it's justified. But these things are continuing when the government have already decided that they don't need to do anything with COVID now. Oh, it's gone away, it's endemic, it's fine, go. Why? Why are they continuing in order for the Chancellor to work out how to become popular again? Because that's all they're doing now. That the most recent £500,000 spent on focus groups have got nothing to do with information of value to government work and are largely about helping the Chancellor repair his image. Should be remembered, this sort of polling, it's not unusual for the government. Like, you do have public consultations on major policy plans, of course. But this sort of polling was only brought in for the pandemic. The focus for these polls is to gauge public opinion on the work of the Treasury and by extension the Chancellor. Given that there's no longer any clear need for the government to have this information, why is taxpayer money still being spent on it? And here's the thing. The Treasury naturally claim that they need to gauge public opinion to decide their policies. Now, we could have an argument about how much this is needed and how much money seems reasonable to spend on it. But if you're going to argue that you think it's a valuable use of public money to gauge public opinion on various policies, why do the Treasury keep adopting unpopular policies then? If you're going to argue that you need to know what measures are popular and unpopular with the public for government reasons, not political reasons, why are they then ignoring the findings of these expensive polls? A windfall tax on oil companies with the money used to help people pay energy bills is popular. It would also be economically sensible as well, so why not do it? Of course, Sunak isn't the only one spending our money like it's going out of fashion. Department for Health and Social Care. Another report emerged of the number of consultants continuing to be hired. Some of them on over £3,000 a day. Now, the department argues that they are highly specialised roles and these fees are standard. Can absolutely go along with that under normal circumstances. Sometimes you are going to need the odd consultant to work on part of a special project, and if that expertise isn't available in the department, it implies it is really highly specialised. Like, there might only be a few people in the world who can do it, and as a result, costly. Get that. But here's the thing. They're still using about 1,500 of these consultants at any one time. Do they really have the need for that many with skills which can't be found within the Department for Health and Social Care? The Department for Health and Social Care is huge. It's a department that runs the NHS, the largest single employer in Europe. Then consider the consultants they were using for test and trace, because that's how this started. This army of consultants for test and trace. Because I can accept paying fees to get the best advice to give the best public service. Remember, Test and Trace was using loads of consultants on very high fees, and yet this privatised model of Test and Trace never worked. The one the NHS used right at the start of the pandemic, before Boris Johnson told us all to take it on the chin, that worked. Consider that. Don't know how many people know that. The NHS were running a Test and Trace system right at the start, before we had cases emerge. They were right onto it because obviously we got a lot of notice about the pandemic, and it worked. It worked, and it worked without special consultants. Then the government told them to stop it. Are you mad? No, we're going to take it on the chin. We're going to let the virus sweep through the country. We'll all build up herd immunity and it'll all be lovely. Then that went wrong, didn't it? It got out of hand. So then the government used a privatised version. They didn't go back to the NHS and say, look, sorry, we seem to have cocked up here. Here's some more money. Get it working again. No, we used a privatised version. We got a jockey, an ex-jockey to run it with an army of consultants, and a report that later concluded it not only failed to meet its objectives, it didn't even help. It's not even like it didn't do as well as it should have done. It's like it didn't help at all. £37 billion budget didn't even help. Against that background, I'm not convinced that the reduced but still large number of consultants being used by the department actually represents good value for public money. Especially when we don't know what good is supposed to be coming from them, and we know this is a government that blows a lot of money on mates and donors. The current cabinet also have more special advisors than they're supposed to have, all on the public payroll. These are political advisors, remember. They're not there to help the government implement policies in the interest of the public. They're not civil servants as such. They are paid for by the public, but they're people hired to give individual cabinet ministers political advice. Now, you know, one or two, okay, but the current cabinet have more than they're supposed to, wasting more public money. Right now, the government are threatening to axe 90,000 civil servants in what they're calling an economy drive. It's not. It's austerity again. Back in 2010, when Cameron started doing it, he wasn't saving money. They behaved as if, oh, you know, the finances are really bad, we need to save money. The finances weren't really bad, we didn't need to save money. And this didn't save money. It's like a company, right, just deciding to shed a load of its workers. It doesn't save money, it just loses productivity. These people had jobs, they were doing things. By getting rid of the workers, all Cameron was doing was stopping that work being done. They weren't sat there with their feet on their desks all day. It is no surprise to anyone that was paying attention that each government department then started doing less well. Waiting times in hospitals went up. Classes got bigger in schools. Crime detection rates started coming down. Conviction rates started coming down. Massive queues for court cases to come to court in the first place. Never mind the pandemic, it was massive before the pandemic. All as a result of getting rid of workers needed in providing essential public services. Even right now, we've got a massive shortage of doctors on the NHS. You'd think we'd be struggling to get doctors, and we are. But there's still, the Department for Health and Social Care still have a reserve list. Qualified doctors who want to work for the NHS put on a waiting list. Waiting for what? The vacancies are already there. The government don't want them working on the NHS. They want these things failing. They want the public sector to shrink right down. They want it to fail so they can bring in privatised versions. You know, I was reminded yesterday UNICEF is going to be feeding children in the UK. Never been done before. Of course it's never been done before. Their work is to help children in the poorest countries in the world. The poorest countries in the world where they're suffering from severe malnutrition. The situation in the UK is so dire in one of the wealthiest countries in the world that this charity needs to intervene. This is a government wasting money, but not on civil servant roles, but on feeding the insatiable appetite of the ultra-wealthy. There's been an explosion of wealth accumulated by the rich under this Tory government that directly correlates with the impoverishment of many of our fellow citizens. Austerity doesn't save money. No economist says it saves money. It just makes the country weaker. If the government really wanted to save money, they'd stop wasting on their own vanity projects and protecting the profits of the insanely rich. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. Maybe even click on the join button if you're interested in memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.